about today because what it does, it tells us the month of February is a month of love, and it all sounds good, but we tend to, am I overdoing it? Oh, I didn't turn it on yet? Oh. Seems like I was talking too loud anyway.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Do you want me to shut up? No. Anyway, what's exciting about this month is, and what PLC is all about, the Positive Thinking Center, is that we try to figure out how to enhance our life. We have this human drama that we have to go through, and our purpose on this planet is to experience it all. It's not just to say it's all good and it's all this and that. No, it is all good. But we have to realize that it is all good because everything we experience is part of our evolution. We're here to grow and to evolve. And we will evolve, and sometimes our biggest teachers are those people who we disagree with. Sometimes our biggest issues and most important issues are those issues we don't agree with as well. But what it does, it kind of pushes Angelo, pushes the rest of us into a higher level of thinking, a higher level of consciousness. And that's how we grow in spirit. Because our duty assignment is to become that one with and do, they call it enlightenment. We tend to complicate our belief system, and we say, well, what do I need to do to reach enlightenment? And then there's these steps, 1, 2, 3, or 12 steps to, I read a lot of books, and then 12 steps to enlightenment. There's only one step to enlightenment. And what that means is that we realize that we're one with the universe. We're one with everything. That this is a participatory universe. We are supposed to participate and be an active part of what's going on. That's what this is all about. And so what that means is that we'll experience the upsides and the downsides, but we do it without judgment. We don't look at everything and say this is good and this is bad. We put labels on things, and then we put barriers around things. If I'm of this type of belief system, therefore everybody else is out of it. No, we are enlightened in the fact that we accept everyone. We put our arms around the whole enchilada of life, and we know that we're here to learn and to grow. And we're here as visitors on planet Earth. I know I preach that a lot. But Angelo is an eternal spiritual being, here to enjoy my vacation on this planet. And it's a short period of time, but I'm here to enjoy it. And I'm also here to learn by it and to use the power that I have to transfer and to transform and to participate in what's going on. So that's what this month's about, and that's the talk before the talk. What this month's about is about focusing on the most magnificent possession we have. It's a possession that can actually ignite the cosmic forces and bring into our manifestation miraculously and interesting healings. It can bring peace of mind. It can bring abundance to us. That's what this month's about. How do we tap into that? And do we have to tap into it? So the enlightenment part of it is to realizing that we've got it already. When I started deciding what I wanted to include in my talk today, and the talk before the talk, what came to mind was a workshop that I attended several years ago in Palm Springs. It was a workshop that was part of a conference. And I remember because the title today kind of brought that to mind. And the title of the religious science minister who provided the workshop called it, "Never Underestimate the Healing Power of Love. It literally will transform and transcend the human limitations." Isn't that cool? So I attended it. It was kind of good. And what he did was he wanted to talk about, part of his workshop had to do with the 67-year-old gentleman in his congregation that got sick. He got a cold, he got a sore throat, and it was not a big thing. He consulted a doctor and did what he was told to do, but he kept getting worse. He got to a point where he couldn't even breathe. And so the family rushed him to the hospital, and they immediately put him on a ventilator. It's called a ventilator, I believe. And he couldn't breathe, so he had to have this machine that helped him breathe. And the doctors did all kinds of tests, and they couldn't find what's wrong with this guy. His whole body was shutting down. And the doctors were concerned, because if this continues on and they don't find what's going on, that he's going to pass. He's going to die. So they went and talked to the family who was in the waiting room there and said, it's a kind of a grave situation. However, here's a doctor saying a few prayers would work. And he said, we're doing all that we can do, but it's very serious. So the minister got the family together, and the minister said, what we need to do is provide our spiritual help to this doctor and to Sam. We've got to provide the help. And the family, they were in tears, and well, what can we do? He says, we need to go into silence. We need to connect to that power within ourselves. And he said that I realize that you're full of fear and doubt and anxious. But you don't want to push it away. You don't want to take and control it. Just go into silence. And I guarantee that this universal force that's within ourselves, the love energy that we're talking about today, will provide some guidance. So the family did that. They went into silence for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and not much was going on in 30 minutes. And finally, the oldest son shouted out, he said, we've got to go to Father right now and let him know that we love him. And that this love energy is providing help. And so they went to the IEU and into the room there, and they held hands and they were praying, Father, we love you, and we know that divine love is doing its perfect work for you right here, right now. And they did this, and it took an hour or two, they just did it, and finally he opened his eyes. He was in a coma. He opened his eyes, and they went and got the night nurse and brought her in. And then she checked him out. He was literally breathing on his own. He was back. And what was that all about? When we look at these kinds of things, and we're looking at connecting through love, looking at all people and all things as divine, what were we talking about here? We're talking about the fact that as we move through this life experience, that we need to realize that we need to do it as a complete individual. And what do I mean by a complete individual? We need to complete ourselves. And what this tells me about is, it reminds me of when I was in the Marines. I always used to say, God is my co-pilot. It's kind of like that. There's a book that came out in 1954 that said, God is my co-pilot. We have within us our own co-pilot. And we call it the divine. We may call it the love energy. I don't care what we call it. But the bottom line is that we do not traverse this plane of existence half naked in power. We're half naked when we're not tapping into our entire beingness of who and what we are. Because if we're just dealing with it from the human standpoint, we have what we call the kingdoms. How many know about the kingdoms? Mineral, plant, what else? Animal, and human. 4 kingdoms, right? There are 4 kingdoms. Do you all agree? How many raise your hand if you agree? I'm being obnoxious. I'm talking about the 5th kingdom. You know, we're half there when we're trying to deal with all the garbage that goes on sometimes that we're supposed to be experiencing. I'm supposed to be going through this and enjoying it, and enjoying the fact that I'm a creative being, that I can come up with a solution for no matter what happens, because I have the 5th kingdom with me. It's the kingdom of the divine. And the problem, I think, that when we look at what's happening in our universe right now, is that people are halfway there. They're into dissension. They're into my way or the highway, or they're into labeling that this person's bad and that person's good. And you know, we say in PLC, it's all good and it's all God. I heard Jenny just say that. Didn't you, Jenny, just say that? Is it all good and all God? If it's all good and it's all God, it's all good and it's all God, except for Martha. We don't agree with Martha. So it's all good and it's all God, except for, and we're going to put the list of all the things where it's except for. You see, we're here to experience it all. And so what that means is, sure, we want to connect. We want to connect to the love. We want to connect through love. We want to see everybody as spiritual. We want to see everything as divine and spiritual. But how do we do that? We have to go from being a conditioned mind person, the 4th kingdom, and I do it and we all do it. What we mean by that is we have our own history of what's happened to us. And then when things come into our way, we reflect on the past and say, wait a minute, I remember rubbing elbows with that person that looks like that. And no, and we put a judgment call and say, no, I don't need to deal with that person. We put labels, we put boundaries around our things. We don't like it when somebody thinks differently than we do. That's dealing with what I call the fourth kingdom. And when we get to that place where we're upset with what's going on, we need to ask ourselves, Angelo, I'm feeling pretty bad what's going on. Why am I feeling bad? And I'm feeling bad because I'm stuck at the fourth kingdom. I haven't brought my power in with me. I haven't brought that idea that it's all good and it's all God, regardless of what's happening. That I'm a powerful individual. It's all good, it's all God. I've got a story I want to talk about, and just shut up for a minute here. And it has to do with a golden retriever dog. Can you believe that? Yeah. His name was Billy. And I'll show you how fourth kingdoms work when it comes to dealing with a veterinarian and with a puppy dog, because I'm a dog lover. And what happened was Billy was owned by Sam and Martha, and Martha was pregnant with her first child. Okay, so Billy gets sick. And so Billy, they take Billy to the vet. Okay, now we're in the fourth dimension right now, fourth kingdom. And it's that human consciousness of fear and doubt and all this, conditioned thinking. And the vet says this, strictly at that fourth kingdom level. He said, Billy's 15 years old. Yeah, so what? And the operation's going to cost $5,000. Oh, so what? You see? And he may not make it through the operation because of his age. Therefore, maybe you want to consider putting him down. Now that's the thinking, what I call limited thinking. It's based on conditional thinking that, I'm going to have a baby. I'm not going to have, but Martha's going to have a baby. But I'm going to have a baby. We're going to be short on funds. We can't spend $5,000 on a dog that's going to die, even though he's been with us for 15 years and he's part of our family. It's okay, but no. And that's that conditioned thinking that we're talking about. But what they decided to do was, let's sleep on it. Let's go to that higher level of consciousness. Let's pray on it. And if they did that, they went and they prayed on it. And Martha, at 2 o'clock in the morning, after praying for perfect right action, how do you think Spirit would respond? Because that dog is a life form of God as well. She woke up with a start and she says, Billy's having the operation. Isn't that cool? Clap for Billy and you're going to have a reason later. Give her a clap. Billy went through the operation perfectly well. Not only that, he was back to his hyperactive self. They had the baby, a little baby girl, and as you know, I don't know if you know about golden retrievers, they're called the guardian of children. How many of you know that? There are more golden retrievers that are seeing-eye dogs than German shepherds. I don't know if you know that. We're in the Lions Club, so we're talking from experience, right, hon?
Right.
But anyway, so the dog bonded with this little baby girl. Well, one night, Billy runs into the bathroom. It's like 2 in the morning and yelling, bark, 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 pulling out the sheets and then running back where the baby's crib was and running back and forth. And he said, what's going on? And so what happened, they get up and they go into the baby's room and it's purple, it's blue, it stopped breathing. This $5,000 dog saved the life of their baby child. Isn't that cool? That's why I had you clap for Billy. Now, why I use that story as a kind of a metaphor is that there's a higher power that knows better than we do. It's a power, we call it the love energy or whatever you want to call it, but it's really connected to that dimension of all possibilities. And it guides and it directs us. And if we lean on it a little bit or let it work through our life, it will lead us the right way. And it did for this family. Isn't that cool? One thing that we find out this month, which we will find out, is that we don't have to do it alone. We don't have to face it alone. That there's something with us that is the partner. So we want to connect with that love energy. Sure, that's cool. And it's very easy. It's not complicated. You can do what they did over at with the man who was sick. They just go to the silence. But what else do we need to do? We need to not only connect to the love energy, but we need to disconnect. If we're out there trying to express our point of view on anything. We want to come from the power of empowerment, that I'm being who I am as a spiritual empowered being, and my voice counts. I need to do that. I cannot go there in fear and doubt, because then I'm switching back down to the fourth kingdom. And so what we need to do is disconnect. We need to disconnect from fear and doubt. So if we're facing something on this planet, and we face it almost every day, anything can happen to bring fear, whether it's a person who's crossing the yellow line and you're heading that way, no matter what it is, or somebody we may not particularly like the appearance of, fear and doubt. Oh my gosh, he's got a beard, you know, all that kind of stuff. But what we need to do is transcend. We need to disconnect from fear and doubt, and how we do that, it's a personal issue. But if I'm walking the streets, or if I'm in my office and fear comes into my experience, I need to ask myself, why am I fearful? What is it about me? What is inside of me that's causing me to not trust, you see? But we need to deal with it. The other thing we need to do is to disconnect with. We need to disconnect from judgment calls. That we tend to think that my answer is the only answer. And there's a story that goes along with that. This guy, he's a broker, a stockbroker. A young guy, he's pretty well off. He's doing well. And he meets this young lady who's becoming an actress. She was so kind and loving, he started getting attracted to her. So what did he do? He wanted to take her around town, kind of show her off and just be part of it. But then he got to thinking, here's fourth dimensional, or fourth kingdom thinking. He said, my gosh, you know, I'm becoming a very wealthy stockbroker. I've got to make sure what I'm doing. I need to be very careful that I'm not going to do a misadventure, because I want to propose to her. But I better check her out first. You see where we're going with this? I need to check her out to make sure she's not going to hurt my reputation. So what he did, he goes to, and this is kind of a cute story. It's good. It's lighthearted. It's okay. So he goes to this investigating agency, and he says, he tells the story. He says, but I want your investigator not to mention my name. I don't want your investigator to know who's doing this, because I don't want her to know that I'm checking her out. And he said, oh, that's fine. So anyway, a couple months go by, and the report comes to him. The report comes to him, and basically he said that this lady is a fine lady. She's beyond reproach. She's loving and she's kind. She donates to her community. She's wonderful. And her friends are exceptional. Her friends are loving and kind, and she's well. But there's one serious problem. There's one shadow that you need to consider. She's been seen going around town with a shady young stockbroker whose principles are questionable. You see? So this is what we're getting at when we're looking at this thing. It's really kind of cool. Well, spiritual leaders tell us this, and it's kind of nice. Spiritual leaders tell us this, that when we connect to that love energy, it's actually opening the door for our human soul. This is good. I can remember what I wrote about. It's the doorway for our human soul to pass from selfishness to oneness. It's the doorway that our human soul can pass from solitary to partnership and to unity with all it is. And it's also, and I'm going to close with this one story, it's also the relationship that the mother has to the child. That's what connecting and zeroing in on the love energy is all about. And the story that goes with it is about Casey. She's on a flight, she's a stewardess, and they're going from Florida to Orlando. And they just recently took off. And all of a sudden the plane was jumping around and out of control, and something was drastically wrong right after takeoff. And the pilot gave this message. She said, buckle your safety belts, and we have a real problem. The hydraulic system in the plane is not functioning, and we're going to have an emergency landing, and it may not lock. The brakes may not lock. And so we could have a crash landing. And besides, if you see water coming off of the sides, that's the fuel. We're going to dump the fuel before we do it. And the Casey was shocked, but she's looking out. One lady said, "We're going to crash." And somebody else got tearful, and there was all this stuff going on, and she said she was looking for one person who wasn't upset, and she heard this small voice, and it was from a mom who was talking to her 4-year-old daughter. And the mom was looking her in the eye, and she said to the daughter, she says, "You know, honey, I love you. You know that, don't you?" And the mother said, "Of course, Mommy, I know you love me." She says, "And you also know that things do happen sometimes that we have no control over, but that I will always be there for you, and I love you." "Yes, Mommy, I do." At that point, she released her seatbelt, got over and put her up and sat down on her daughter. Is that cruel? That's a relationship that moms have with their children. And needless to say, the plane landed without a problem. But it was the metaphor that I'm using today to close this about, is that we have within ourselves, and you know, in spirituality, we put labels on things too. We say, "Well, that's the feminine principle within each of us." And some of us say, "No, that's a subconscious mind. No, it's this and it's that." Basically, it's the God in action. It's that love energy we're talking about today. That's always there, always responding, always saying yes. It's there, and it was there for me this morning. I says, "Give me guidance. Let me know that the words flow with ease, and my mind is clear." It's that kind of thing that's available to us all the time. And so, just as the mother released that seatbelt to protect her child, we need to release the seatbelt. We need to release fear and doubt and anxiety and judgment and labeling, and just know that we're one with all that there is, and it is all good and it's all God, and that's what this month's all about. And say with me loud and clear.
And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you. I'm done.
All right.